Luke 8 speaks of a man who is demon possessed. And it starts with a really, really interesting phrase. And I'm sure that there's potentially some cultural relevancy to this phrase. But I want you to consider the allegorical relevancy to this phrase. It says that this man was demon possessed and lived among the tombs. What? We in middle school were like, oh my gosh, who wants to go to a grave site and like go there at night and see how many like haunted ghosts or whatever, maybe that was just us. We had one really, really close to our school and everything. But what a strange statement. There's nothing written in the Bible that's done as an accident. So there's an intentionality behind this. And again, I'm sure that it's partially has an ability to be cultural. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's just really, really weird for them even back then. But here's the allegory to be seen in this. This is the man that just cast out the demons legion, and they go into the swine who go and, commit suicide right after, which is kind of intense. Another really cool allegory, by the way. But the thing that I want you to consider from this is, it says that this man was living among the tombs. He slept in a grave. He wasn't dead, but he slept in a grave. And he was living in this grave. And, there's two kind of implications I want you to consider here. First implication is that this man was technically speaking alive, but he was spiritually dead. And there's so many people today that not necessarily are demon possessed, but they are physically alive. They physically have a heartbeat, but there's nothing going on spiritually inside of them. They're spiritually dead. They're possessed by something that's not Jesus. Maybe that's money for you. Maybe that's girls for you. Maybe that's pornography for you. Maybe that's drug addiction and alcoholism for you. Maybe that's just idolatry of you. Maybe that's just the pride of your life. Maybe that's just you wanting to be successful. Maybe that's what you wanting to make your parents proud because they mean most to you. And again, I'm not saying that that's wrong to want your parents to be proud of you, but for you to have an idol of that is definitely wrong. Consider if you as a person are alive physically but spiritually dead in that sense. And then also consider, although this is not an actual accurate allegory because, it implies that he gave his life to Jesus at a later point when he was sitting at Jesus' feet is when he'd, been born again. But consider, are you a born again believer, but still living as if you're spiritually dead? You can have, actually be born again, but still be living in a way like you're spiritually dead. There's plenty of Christians I see who are truly born again, but they're not living in the way that God has called them to live as Christians. And that, in my eyes, is practically no different because, again, I understand that you will go to heaven one day. The point isn't whether you're going to go to heaven one day, but why is the focus and emphasis on where you're going to spend eternity? I'm not saying that's not important, but what I am saying is how you represent Jesus today is what's extremely important, because how you represent Jesus today will determine your disposition and your heart and whatnot and how you are, but it will also determine how and where other people are spending eternity simply based upon how you're doing spiritually today. Not heaven or hell, but how you're actually doing in the midst of your being born again. So consider, ask yourself, challenge yourself with saying, if I am born again, or if I'm not born again, first off, I need to get born again so that I can start living this way. But maybe you are born again, but you're still living in the graves. You're still living in the past. You're still living your old life. You still keep falling back into your old sins with no real intentionality and discipline behind what you're going to do different so that you don't keep doing those things. Do something today, guys. Like, Christianity is not just a thought process and a mentality. It's actual life application. You need to do something where you physically write down what's going to be different. You're 100% guaranteed to miss the goals that you never set for yourself. This is something we use in the business world all the time is, if you want to make a certain amount of money per month, if you want to save a certain amount of money per month, if you want to steward a certain amount of money per month, but you never say what that is going to be, then you're never going to hit a good goal because you haven't even set a goal. In the same way, set a goal for yourself applicably. Everything in life done needs to be done applicably. If you want to get better at basketball, you need to be intentional about the things that you want to get better at. If those are layups you want to get better at, you need to start practicing by shooting layups. That's the intentionality behind getting better at basketball. Getting better at basketball is like the broad sense. Shooting layups is like the specific thing that you're going to do or change about that. Same thing here. If you're saying, hey, I want to, start being more spiritually alive in the ways and practices of my life, that's awesome. But you need to do something specific about that. What specifically are you going to change? If you don't know what that is, then I encourage you, I challenge you. Reach out to me, reach out to your pastor, reach out to mentors to find out what those things are, specifically that need to be changed. and ask them, say, hey, what should I be doing in my life that's going to make me look more like Jesus tomorrow than I did today? And from you doing this, I'm sure that you are going to find a tremendous amount of fruit comes from this kind of intentionality.